Hello and welcome back to A World of Color. If you're new here, I'm Mara Adina, a full-time artist, and this is the channel where I share different parts of my practice. What you're watching is a work session on a painting I've been returning to on and off for the past 10 months. It's one of those pieces that asks for patience, revealing itself slowly, layer by layer. Today, I felt a pull to add another layer to it. There's something happened that left me charged with a kind of negative energy. So as you watch this painting emerge, I want to speak to something that's been living in me for a while now. Something that broke open today at a residency I'm currently attending here in Spain. The residency is meant to explore the relationship between art, politics, the environment, and working with reclaimed material. But during a lecture meant to inspire us, something else happened. Something I've felt before, but today it became unbearable. The presentation began with Dada, followed by pop art and a stream of contemporary artists, all celebrated for their so-called radical use of discarded materials. Phrases like, he was the first, he revolutionized, he invented, kept coming up, and not one mention of anything that came before, outside the Western canon. I thought to myself, this is how Eurocentric art history operates. It presents itself as truth, as neutral chronology, while quietly erasing everything that doesn't serve its narrative of Western innovation. It tells us that creativity begins in Europe, in white bodies, in movements with names and manifestos. But to me, this isn't just bad history, it's extraction. The same extractive mindset that plundered lands and people now plunders ideas and rewrites who gets to be seen as a thinker, a maker, an originator. But long before these artists were enshrined in museums, indigenous African, Latin American, and Oceanic makers were weaving meaning into found objects, making ritual from ruin, and embedding cosmology in reused materials. In these contexts, material reuse is not a reaction against consumerism, but a much deeper, a spiritual, ecological, and communal act. To suggest that these artistic strategies were invented by European avant-garde is to reproduce the same imperial arrogance that once stole artifacts from temples and exhibited them in glass cases. It is a kind of epistemic violence, a continuation of extraction, not of minerals or bodies, but of ideas. Long before the word recycled entered the gallery, communities across the world were weaving together meaning from what the earth offered and what others discarded. Materials weren't just reused, they were reborn. In these traditions, the spiritual, the ecological, the aesthetic are inseparable. These weren't just reactive or ironic gestures, but ways of being, ones that Western art institutions have long ignored, silenced, or appropriated. When I tried to speak up in the lecture to gesture towards these absences, the response was a polite nod and a quick yes, totally. And then we moved on, as if the problem was somewhere out there, not embedded in the very structure of the lecture the mentor had prepared. But we can't move on. Not anymore. This is not just about missing names or footnotes. It's about how power manufactures knowledge, how entire lineages of creation are erased until they can be rediscovered by someone with a European passport and a gallery show. This lecture, like so many residencies and institutions, repeats the same arrogant myth. that art history begins in Europe, that invention happens in isolation, that Western timelines are world history. And in doing so, it doesn't just overlook other cultures, it erases them. It withholds the word culture from those who shaped the words aesthetics, cosmologies, and material practices for millennia. What's missing is not just inclusion, it's accountability, a deep, uncomfortable self-examination to ask, what damage are we still doing? What truths have we buried to preserve our authority? What must we unlearn before we can keep teaching? Until institutions and the people within them find the courage to ask these questions, the violence of erasure will persist, not just as a relic of the past, but as a daily practice of sanctioned ignorance. There are people who've been doing this work of unlearning, retelling, rerouting, Black, Indigenous, and Global South, or better said, global majority, artists and scholars who have long resisted the canon and offered something far more expansive, something relational, rooted, and alive. Please check the video description for just a few of the brilliant minds carrying this work forward. They remind us that art does not belong to Europe. Invention is not a singular moment, but a living continuum. And materials remember, and so do we. I'm speaking from a deep longing for a world where we all, wherever we came from, get to face our full, messy, interconnected histories, not just the ones filtered through the white supremacist Eurocentric gaze. So here I am, infuriated, yes, but also more clear than ever. We are part of a lineage that predates the museum, predates the manifesto. We make with what is offered, what is inherited, what is transformed. We make with memory, with resistance, with voices we're only just beginning to hear. Because this isn't just about art history, it's about creating environments where truth can rise, where systems can break and be rebuilt with care. If we are to survive this meta-crisis, this unraveling of climate, culture, and consciousness, we need spaces that make remembering possible. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories, your experiences. I hope we can keep the conversation going about how, wherever we are, in all our spaces and places, we can begin to rewrite history together. Until next time, thank you for watching and listening. Bye for now.